The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly above, its surface alive with swirling patterns of light that reflected the mood of nearly 900 alien representatives. Today, those patterns pulsed with agitation and uncertainty. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension as creatures from across the galaxy prepared to decide humanity's fate. Ambassador Jinwoo Park adjusted his simple black uniform and stepped forward to the human delegation's platform. Behind him, his team of 12 sat in perfect formation, their faces masks of professional calm. But Jinwoo could feel their anxiety like a physical weight. After 137 years of service, sacrifice, and partnership, it all came down to this moment. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices as the debate resumed. To his left, the towering Valix delegate rose on his 4 massive legs, his reptilian head swaying hypnotically as he spoke. His translator device crackled with static as his words filled the air. Fellow council members, we must not forget the human wars on their home planet. Even now, they carry weapons of mass destruction capable of sterilizing entire worlds. How can we trust such a violent species with full membership? A chorus of clicking sounds came from the insectoid Thrix section, their compound eyes glittering like jewels under the chamber's lights. Their queen speaker's mandibles clacked as she addressed the assembly. The humans are ruled by emotion, not logic. Make decisions based on feelings rather than calculated benefit. Today they are our friends, but tomorrow, when their emotions change, they could become our destroyers. Ginwoo's aide, diplomat Hai-Jin Kim, leaned forward in her seat. Her knuckles were white as she gripped her datapad. She had spent 5 years preparing arguments, statistics, and testimonials about humanity's contributions to galactic peace. Now, it seemed none of it mattered. From the gaseous nebulan section came a sound like wind through metal pipes, as their representative spoke through their atmospheric suit. Humans age and die too quickly. How can we make long-term plans with beings who live less than a single nebulan season? The crystalline Zentari delegate's body chimed like distant bells. There. Technology advances too rapidly. They disrupt established order. They question everything, change everything. This is dangerous to galactic stability. Ginwoo watched it all with the patience of a man who had seen the best and worst of both human and alien nature. He thought of Captain Minho Yang, who had died saving a Thrix colony ship from pirates. He remembered Dr. Sujin Lee, who had developed the cure for the red spiral plague that had threatened to wipe out 6 different species. He pictured engineer Won-Sik Choi, who designed the defensive systems that protected the Outer Rim. Worlds from raiders, none of it seemed to matter now. The aquatic Delphine representative spoke through her water-filled communication sphere. Her melodic voice carrying across the chamber, perhaps the humans mean well, but they are too different from us. They breathe air, walk on solid ground, see only in limited spectrums. How can they truly understand our needs? A rumbling laugh came from the rock-like granite collective. They live on the surface of their world like insects. They have no understanding of deep time, of the slow patience required for true wisdom. Hours passed. Jinwoo listened to species after species list humanity's flaws, real and imagined. Some spoke of human unpredictability. Others worried about human expansion. A few even suggested that humans were too primitive, despite the fact that human technology now powered half the galaxy's infrastructure through it all. Hai-Jin took careful notes, her stylus moving rapidly across her datapad. She documented every slight, every insult, every expression of fear or hatred. This would be important later, but she didn't yet know why. The floating energy beings known as the Luminari spoke in bursts of colored light that the translation matrix converted to sound. Humans think too quickly, act too quickly. They do not contemplate consequences across multiple generations. They form emotional attachments, added a multi-limbed hexapod. This clouds their judgment in matters of galactic importance. Finally, the council speaker called for order. The ancient ethereal's voice resonated through every mind in the chamber without need for translation. The debate phase is concluded. We will now proceed to the final vote on humanity's application for full Galactic Council membership. Vote tally materialized in the center of the chamber, its numbers glowing like captured starlight. Each representative's vote appeared as a colored dot on the massive display. Red for rejection, blue for acceptance, yellow for abstention. The chamber fell silent, except for the soft humming of life support systems and the distant thrum of the station's massive engines. 900 alien eyes, sensors, and perception. Organs focused on the slowly filling display. Red dots dominated the screen like a spreading infection. A few scattered blue points tried to balance the tide, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. Yellow abstentions dotted the display like uncertain stars. "The vote is concluded," the council speaker announced. 847 against membership, 23 in favor, 15 abstentions. The motion for human membership in the Galactic Council is rejected. The chamber erupted in a mixture of satisfied clicks, relieved sighs, and uncomfortable shuffling. Some representatives looked pleased with their decision. Others appeared troubled, perhaps already beginning to question what they had just done. Jinwoo stood slowly, his movements deliberate and measured. He gathered his materials with the same care he would use handling precious artifacts. His team watched him with a mixture of shock, disappointment, and growing anger. But Jinwoo's face remained perfectly composed. He walked to the central podium, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. Every alien I followed his progress. They expected fury, demands for reconsideration, perhaps even threats. Instead, Jinwoo simply stood there for a moment, looking out at the sea of alien faces with something that might have been sadness. "Humanity thanks the Council for this clarity," he said finally, his voice carrying easily across the vast space. "We understand our place now." The words were simple, polite, even gracious. But something in Jinwoo's tone made the chamber fall. Completely silent. Hyjin felt a chill run down her spine. She had never heard her mentor sound quite like this before, as the human delegation filed out of the chamber. Their footsteps synchronized and their backs straight with dignity. Few aliens realized they had just witnessed something historic. They had expected human emotion, human drama, human begging or bargaining instead. They had seen something far more dangerous, human acceptance of a fundamental truth about their place in the galaxy. And in the days to come, they would learn exactly what that acceptance meant. The first sign came exactly 14 days after the council vote. Dr. Sung-ho Ali stood in his pristine laboratory on Proxima Station, watching his alien research team work with equipment they barely understood. For 8 years, this facility had been the medical center of the galaxy, producing breakthrough treatments that saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Dr. Histhrik's assistant clicked nervously, her compound eyes reflecting the laboratory's blue lights. "The protein synthesizer is malfunctioning again. The sequences keep corrupting." Sung-ho nodded quietly, making notes on his personal datapad. The machine wasn't broken. It was simply programmed to respond only to human biometric signatures, a security feature he had installed years ago. Without his genetic markers to authorize the complex procedures, the equipment was essentially useless. "Pack everything," he told his human staff. "We're going home." His alien colleagues stared in confusion as human technicians began disconnecting equipment and sealing research samples. The Thrix assistant approached cautiously. "But doctor, what about the spiral fever outbreak on Centauri Prime? The infected are counting on your new treatment." Sung-ho paused at the laboratory door, his expression unreadable. "I'm sure the council will find someone else to help them." 3 systems away, engineer Myung Choi stood on the observation deck of the terraforming platform orbiting Kepler-4 for 2b. Below them, the planet's atmosphere swirled with the artificial clouds her machines had been creating for the past 5 years. The world was 60% ready for colonization by the silicon-based Rockite species. Her Zentari supervisor's crystalline body chimed with anxiety. "Engineer Choi, you cannot simply abandon the project now. The atmospheric processors require constant calibration. Without your expertise, the entire ecosystem will collapse." Myung watched her human engineering crew loading their personal equipment onto transport shuttles. "The basic systems are automated. Your people can maintain them. But the quantum, atmospheric regulators, the weather control satellites, the biological integration protocols. The Zentari's voice grew higher in pitch. These are human designs. You don't understand the underlying principles. Then you'll have to learn, Myung replied simply, or find someone else who can. The Zentari's crystalline form flickered with desperate colors. Who else? Humans are the only species with this level of atmospheric engineering knowledge. Myung turned away from the window. That's not our problem anymore. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on hundreds of worlds. Human agricultural specialists on farming colonies packed their seeds and soil samples. Human teachers in alien schools submitted their final lesson plans. Human doctors in interspecies. Hospitals uploaded their patient files and powered down their equipment. Captain Dong Hayan's name stood on the bridge of the massive cargo vessel New Horizon. Watching the star map display update with new navigation routes, his ship was part of humanity's merchant marine fleet of over 3,000 vessels that had connected the galaxy's trade networks for decades. Sir, his first officer, Lieutenant Jae-Zoon Park, approached with a worried expression. Receiving urgent messages from over 40 species, the Aquatic Federation is offering triple rates for medical supply deliveries. The gas giant collective needs immediate shipment of their atmospheric processors. Donghain studied the requests, scrolling across his screen. Each one represented relationships built over years, contracts that had made both humans and aliens, wealthy partnerships that had seemed unbreakable just weeks ago. What are our current obligations? He asked. 17 active contracts across 9 systems, sir. All legitimate agreements signed before the council vote. Then we fulfill every one of them, exactly as specified, Dong Haiyan said firmly. But we don't sign any new ones. As the New Horizon changed course toward human space, its cargo holds filled with returning colonists instead of exotic alien goods, dozens of other human vessels followed suit. The galaxy's shipping lanes, once crowded with human freighters, began to empty. The effect was immediate and devastating. On the industrial world of Metalia, the robotic factories that produced starship components ground to halt. The maintenance protocols for their quantum assembly lines had been developed by human engineers, and without regular updates. The machines began producing flawed parts. The Delphine Collective's underwater cities found their life support systems failing as the human-designed pressure regulators malfunctioned. The aquatic beings had never bothered to learn how the complex machinery worked. Trusting entirely in human expertise, most catastrophic was the breakdown of the galactic communication network. Human technicians had designed and maintained the quantum relay stations that allowed instant communication across thousands of light years. As these specialists returned to human space, the relays began losing synchronization. Within weeks, previously instantaneous messages between distant worlds were taking days or even weeks to arrive in the council chambers. Emergency sessions became daily occurrences. The reptilian Valix delegate, who had spoken so passionately against human membership, now stood before empty seats where human observers had once sat. "This is clearly a coordinated attack on galactic infrastructure," he declared, his tail lashing with agitation. "The humans are trying to force us to reconsider our decision through economic pressure." But intelligence reports told a different story. Human colonies weren't stockpiling weapons or making aggressive moves. They were simply ... withdrawing. Every human facility, every human-run operation, every human-dized system was being systematically shut down or abandoned. The Thrix. Queen Speaker's mandibles clicked nervously as she addressed the assembly. "Our agricultural yields have dropped 40% without human soil optimization techniques. Our people are beginning to go hungry." The gaseous Nebulan representative's atmospheric suit hissed as he spoke. "Our energy production has fallen by half. Diffusion reactors designed by human engineers require maintenance procedures we cannot replicate." The holographic displays around the chamber showed the spreading chaos. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for decades were collapsing. Scientific research projects were being abandoned as human experts vanished. Entire industries built around human innovations were grinding to a halt. Most disturbing of all was the silence from human space. the constant stream of scientific papers, cultural exchanges, trade proposals, and diplomatic communications that had flowed from human colonies for over a century had simply stopped. It was as if humanity had drawn a curtain across their sector of the galaxy, the Council. Speaker's ancient voice resonated through the chamber with growing concern. Perhaps we should reconsider our decision. Send a delegation to Earth, offer them limited membership, some compromised position. But the preliminary reports from intelligence services were troubling. Human military vessels had been spotted moving through their territory in formations not seen since the last Galactic War. Construction projects on human worlds had accelerated dramatically. Most mysteriously, several human colonies had gone completely dark, their communications blocked by some kind of advanced shielding technology. As the weeks passed, it became clear that this wasn't a temporary withdrawal or a negotiating tactic. This was humanity cutting its ties with the galaxy that had rejected them. The consequences were rippling outward like waves from a dropped stone. The aliens who had voted against human membership were beginning to realize they hadn't just rejected a species. They had rejected the foundation upon which their modern civilization was built. The morning light of New Sol's twin suns streamed through the tall windows of Ambassador So Young-han's office, casting long shadows across her polished desk. The human colony had grown remarkably in the 5 years since the Exodus began. Where once there had been modest settlements, now gleaming cities stretched toward the horizon, their spires reaching into the pale blue sky. So-young reviewed the latest stack of alien communications, each message more desperate than the last. Her personal AI assistant, a sleek holographic interface that materialized beside her desk, highlighted the most urgent requests with pulsing red indicators. Priority message from the reptilian Volix High Command, the AI announced in a pleasant, synthetic voice. They're offering exclusive mining rights to 3 asteroid belts in exchange for human agricultural consultants. So-young touched the holographic display, scanning the message. The same Valix delegate who had spoken against humanity's unpredictable aggression now begged for help with food shortages across their empire. Their traditional farming methods, which had sustained them for millennia, were failing as their home worlds became increasingly polluted. Standard response, she said without emotion. The AI generated the familiar reply. Thank you for your inquiry. Humanity is focusing on internal development at this time. Another message materialized. This one from the Crystalline Zentari Collective. Their quantum computing networks, once the backbone of galactic banking and communications, were experiencing cascade failures. The human-designed maintenance protocols were too complex for their logical but inflexible minds to adapt. They're offering a 50-year technology sharing agreement, the AI noted, plus territorial concessions in the Andromeda border region. Standard response, So-young repeated, then paused. Actually, add a note thanking them for their generous offer, but explaining that humanity's current projects require our full attention. Through her office window, she could see the construction crews working on the new orbital shipyards. Massive human vessels, unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, were taking shape in the zero-gravity foundries. Their designs incorporated technologies that humanity had developed in isolation, free from the constraints and compromises of galactic cooperation. Her aide, Tae-han-yoon, entered the office, carrying a datapad filled with the day's most critical reports. His expression was grim as he set the device on her desk. Ma'am, the situation in the Outer Rim is deteriorating rapidly. The Crimson Plague has now spread to 14 systems. So-young studied the medical reports with professional interest. The disease was particularly cruel, targeting the nervous systems of silicon-based life forms while leaving carbon-based species as carriers. It should have been contained within days using standard quarantine protocols and targeted treatments. Dr. Hyun-woo Kim's research team developed a cure for this exact pathogen 4 years ago, Taeyeon continued. The treatment protocols are still in our medical databases. And where is Dr. Kim now? So-young asked, though she already knew the answer. Running the new medical research facility on Haven Colony? He's been working on regenerative treatments for human space exploration crews. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. The same minds that could have ended the plague in hours were now focused on preparing humanity for journeys beyond the galaxy's borders. The aliens who had rejected human membership were dying from diseases that humans could cure with medicine they had developed years ago. Ma'am Tahan said quietly, "The Delphine Collective has sent another request. They're underwater. Cities are experiencing complete life support failures. They're estimating 60 million casualties if the systems aren't repaired within the next month." So-young closed her eyes for a moment. The Delphine were one of the few species that had abstained from the council vote, neither supporting nor opposing human membership. Aquatic cities were marvels of engineering, but they depended entirely on human-designed pressure regulators and atmospheric processors. "What's their offer?" she asked. "Full territorial sovereignty over the oceanic worlds in the Tau Ceti system, plus unlimited access to their bioacoustic communication technology." It was a generous offer, perhaps the most valuable territory any alien species had ever offered to humanity. The Delphine's underwater cities were some of the most beautiful in the galaxy, and their communication technology could revolutionize human space exploration. "Standard response," So-young said finally, "but express our sympathy for their situation." Ahayan nodded, making notes on his datapad. "There's also this urgent message from the council speaker themselves. The holographic display activated, showing the ancient ethereal's energy form pulsing with what could only be described as panic." Their telepathic voice resonated through the room with unprecedented urgency. "Ambassador Han, the Galactic Council, formally requests an emergency session with human representatives. The current crisis threatens the stability of galactic civilization itself. We are prepared to discuss immediate provisional membership for humanity, with full voting rights and territorial guarantees." So-young leaned back in her chair, studying the message. 5 years ago, such an offer would have been exactly what humanity had wanted. Full membership, respect, a place at the table where galactic decisions were made. Now it felt like too little, too late. "The Montari Empire has lost 40% of their agricultural capacity," Tahan reported, scrolling through additional updates. "Their insect population is facing starvation across 17 colony worlds. The granite collectives, deep mining operations have collapsed without human engineering support. And the luminary energy beings are actually dimming. Their light-based civilization failing as their power distribution networks break down." Each report painted the same picture, a galaxy in slow-motion collapse, brought down not by war or natural disaster, but by the simple absence of human innovation and expertise. "What about our own progress?" So-young asked, changing the subject. Taehoen's expression brightened considerably. "The new Terra project is ahead of schedule. The atmospheric processors are working perfectly, and we'll have a fully habitable world within 18 months. The deep space exploration fleet is ready for its first mission beyond the galactic rim, and the new fusion technology is exceeding all expectations." Through her window, So-young could see the evidence of humanity's rapid advancement. The orbital elevators that connected the planet's surface to the space stations above moved with clockwork precision. Transport ships carrying resources and personnel between human colonies flew in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that no other species could replicate. "There's one more thing," Taehayan said hesitantly. "Long range. Sensors have detected unusual activity in the void between galaxies. Something large is moving in our direction." So-young's attention sharpened. "How large?" "Unknown. The signatures are unlike anything in our databases. But if the readings are correct, we're looking at structures the size of small moons, possibly artificial in origin." She stood and walked to the window. Gazing out at the bustling activity of New Sol, humanity had spent 5 years turning inward, developing technologies and capabilities that they had never been able to pursue. While constantly helping solve other species' problems, they had grown stronger, smarter, and more advanced than ever before. "Ma'am," Taehayan asked quietly, "what if the council is right? What if galactic civilization really is collapsing?" So-young continued, staring out at the horizon, where the construction of humanity's newest starships continued around the clock. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but resolute. "Then perhaps it's time for something new to take its place. The first reports came from the deep space monitoring station, orbiting the dead world of Zarian Prime. Senior technician Zarkal, a four-armed hexapod, had been tracking what he initially thought was a small asteroid field drifting between galaxies. The readings made no sense. The objects were moving in perfect formation, accelerating toward the galactic rim at impossible speeds. Admiral Vextar Zarkal, as panicked transmission crackled through the communication array. These aren't asteroids. They're ships. Thousands of them. Admiral Vextar, the reptilian commander of the Council's Outer Rim Defense Fleet, studied the holographic display aboard his flagship Galactic Unity. The massive dreadnought had been humanity's gift to the Council 15 years ago, back when humans still believed in galactic cooperation. Now it was the most advanced vessel in the alien fleet. Magnify the image, Vextar ordered. Scaled hands gripping the command rail. The display zoomed in, revealing shapes that defied understanding. The vessels were black as the void itself, their surfaces seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved like living creatures, flowing through space in patterns that followed no known laws of physics. Some were as large as space stations, while others darted about like mechanical insects. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, her crystalline Zentari body chiming with fear, or not responding to any communication attempts. "Standard diplomatic protocols are failing. Deploy the fleet in defensive formation," Vextar commanded. "All ships, prepare for possible hostile contact." The Council fleet was impressive by galactic standards. 200 ships representing a dozen different species, armed with the most advanced weapons available. Energy cannons that could crack planets. Shields that could withstand the fury of stars. And sensor arrays that could detect a single ship from light years away. It wasn't enough. The void swarm struck without warning. Dark ships simply appeared among the Council fleet, as if they had folded space itself to bypass all defenses. Vextar watched in horror as his vessels were torn apart by weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. "Shields are useless," screamed his weapons officer. "Their beams are passing through our barriers like they're not even there." The Galactic Unity shuddered as something struck its hull. The lights flickered, and several control panels exploded. In showers of sparks, through the view screen, Vextar could see his fleet being systematically destroyed. The alien vessels dissolved under the swarm's assault, their crews never even understanding what was killing them. "All ships, retreat immediately," Vextar ordered, but only 17 vessels remained to receive the command. The others were already spreading debris clouds where proud warships had stood. Moments before, on the Council homeworld of Nexus Prime, the emergency session convened within hours of receiving Vextar's desperate transmission. The Great Chamber, which had once hummed with confident debate, now echoed with panicked voices and desperate plans. The holographic display at the chamber's center showed the spreading destruction. Red markers indicated worlds that had gone silent. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The void swarm was moving methodically through the galaxy's outer systems, consuming everything in their path. 17 systems have gone dark in the past. 6 hours, reported the Thrix intelligence officer, her compound eyes reflecting the crimson warning lights. The swarm appears to be using some form of matter conversion technology. They're not just destroying worlds, they're harvesting them, the reptilian Valix. Delegate, the same one who had argued against human membership a decade ago, rose from his seat with visible desperation. "We need to contact the humans immediately. They've always been our defenders in times of crisis." A chorus of agreement rose from species that had once opposed human membership. The crystalline Zentari, the gaseous Nebulan, even the ancient rock-like Granite Collective, all now clamoring for human assistance. The Council speaker's ethereal form pulsed with urgent energy as they transmitted the emergency request to human space. The response came within hours. It's delivered by Director Kung Su Lim of the Human Colonial Authority. The message appeared on the main display. Simple text against a black background that somehow felt more ominous than any weapon. Director Lim's calm voice read the words aloud through the translation matrix. "The Human Colonial Authority acknowledges the Galactic Council's current crisis. We extend our sympathies for the losses you have suffered. However, as humanity is not a member of the galactic community, We must focus our resources on defending human space and human interests. We wish you success in your endeavors against this threat." The chamber fell silent. The message was professional, courteous, and absolutely final. There would be no human cavalry riding to the rescue this time, but they have to help us. Delphine representative wailed from her water-filled communication sphere. "This threatens the entire galaxy. If we fall, they fall too." The Montari Queen speaker's antennae twitched with agitation. "Send another message. Offer them anything they want. Full membership, territorial concessions, technology sharing agreements." 3 more messages were sent. Each received the same polite but firm response. Humanity was not interested in galactic affairs. Then the intelligence. Reports began arriving that turned the Council's desperation into pure horror. Long-range sensors had detected the Void Swarm approaching human territory. Everyone expected to see the familiar pattern, sudden silence, followed by the expansion of the dead zone. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The swarm stopped. "Possible," whispered the Zentari sensor technician. "The leading edge of their fleet has halted at the boundary of the Terran defense perimeter." The display updated with new information that made several council members physically recoil. Massive structures surrounded every human world. Installations so large they dwarfed entire cities. Energy readings showed power levels that exceeded anything in the galactic database. "What are those things?" demanded the Valix delegate. "Unknown. Architecture," the technician replied. "But the energy signatures suggest weapons of unprecedented capability, and there are thousands of them." More data flooded in. Human ships, sleek vessels, unlike anything the galaxy had seen, moved in perfect formations around their worlds. These weren't the simple cargo haulers and research vessels that aliens remembered. These were warships, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that bent light itself. "The human fleet appears to be at least 10 times larger than our previous estimates," the intelligence officer reported. "And their technology. We can't even classify most of what we're seeing." On the display they watched as the Void Swarm's advanced scouts encountered the outer edge of human defenses. The dark ships that had torn through Council fleets like paper suddenly found themselves facing weapons that could reach across star systems. Beams of pure energy lanced out from human installations, and entire sections of the swarm simply ceased to exist. The Council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Humans weren't just defending themselves, they were winning. "How is this possible?" the gaseous Nebulan representative asked through his atmospheric suit. 10 years ago, humans were requesting membership in our council. Now they possess technology that makes our greatest achievements look primitive. The ancient Granite Collective rumbled their response. "Perhaps we underestimated what humans could accomplish when they focused solely on their own development." The hours passed, more reports arrived. Void Swarm had thrown their full force against human defenses and achieved nothing. Human weapons cut through their formations like blades through smoke. Human shields absorbed attacks that had destroyed entire planets. Most remarkably, human ships seemed to appear and disappear at will, striking from impossible angles before vanishing back into what could only be described as folded space. The same species that had been rejected for being too emotional, too unpredictable, had apparently spent their isolation, developing capabilities that transcended anything the galaxy had imagined possible. In the growing silence of the Council chamber, one terrible truth became clear. Humanity had not just survived their rejection. They had used it as motivation to evolve far beyond their former selves. The galaxy that had turned them away now faced extinction, while the humans they had dismissed stood as the only force capable of stopping the ultimate threat. And they had no intention of sharing that protection with the worlds that had abandoned. The massive refugee fleet drifted through space like scattered leaves in a cosmic wind. What had once been the proud armadas of a dozen species were now desperate survivors, clinging to damaged vessels and overcrowded transports. The Galactic Council's greatest warships had been reduced to floating scrap metal. Their hulls scarred by weapons that defied every law of physics they understood, Council Speaker Velteron floated in the command center of the last remaining Council vessel, their ethereal energy form flickering with exhaustion and despair. Around them, the holographic displays showed the same horrifying truth. 80% of galactic civilization had been consumed by the Void Swarm in just 6 months. Speaker, the Thrix communications officer clicked nervously. We're receiving confirmation from the outer colonies. The Montari homeworld has gone silent. The Zentari crystal cities are ... gone. Velteron's S-energy field pulsed with grief. Each fallen world represented billions of lives, entire cultures that had taken millennia to develop, now reduced to nothing more than raw materials for the swarm's endless hunger. What about the human territories? Asked the reptilian Valak's admiral, his once proud scales now dulled with defeat. Unchanged, the officer replied. Long-range sensors show the swarm maintains a perfect boundary around human space. No incursions, no attacks, no attempts to breach their defenses. The irony was crushing. The same humans they had rejected as unworthy of membership were now the only civilization in the galaxy that remained, untouched by the greatest threat any of them had ever faced. Prepare the diplomatic vessel, Velteron commanded, their voice resonating with the weight of absolute desperation. Go to Earth. The journey to human space took 3 days, passing through regions of the galaxy that had become graveyards. Dead worlds drifted in their orbits, their surfaces stripped of everything useful. The silence was complete and terrifying. As they approached the Sol system, the alien delegation gasped at what they saw. Massive ring structures surrounded every planet, their surfaces gleaming with energy fields that hurt to look at directly. Ships moved between the rings in perfect formation, their designs incorporating geometries that seemed to fold space around them. By the void, whispered the Delphine, representative from her water sphere. What are those things? The human escort. The vessel that met them was unlike anything in their databases. It was sleek and organic-looking, its hull seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once. Galactic Council delegation, you are cleared. For approach to Luna Station, please maintain your current heading and do not deviate from the designated flight path. Luna Station was a marvel that defied their understanding of engineering. The facility appeared to be built from crystallized light itself, its walls transparent, yet stronger than any known material. As their shuttle docked, the delegation could see through the floors to the earth below, where massive cities stretched between floating platforms and underwater domes. Director Yoonji Park waited for them. In a reception chamber that challenged their perception of reality, the room seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its walls showing views of distant galaxies while the floor displayed real-time data from across human space. She was a woman in her 50s, her hair streaked with silver, her eyes holding the same quiet strength that her father had possessed decades ago. Council Speaker Velteron, she said, her voice carrying the formal tone of diplomatic protocol. Welcome to Luna Station. Understand you've traveled far to reach us. The council speaker's energy form condensed into a more solid appearance, a sign of deep respect among their kind. Director Park, we come before you in our darkest hour. The Void Swarm has consumed most of our worlds. We are dying as a galactic civilization. I'm aware of the situation, Yoonji replied calmly. Our monitoring systems have tracked the swarm's progress. You have our sympathies for your losses. The reptilian Valak's delegate stepped forward, his pride forgotten in the face of extinction. Director, we offer humanity everything. Full membership in the council, with leadership positions. Territorial rights to any systems you desire. Technology sharing agreements, even formal apologies for our past decisions. Yoonji's expression didn't change. That's very generous. But I'm afraid you're misunderstanding the situation. Please, the Thrix representative clicked desperately. We know humans have always been protectors. You saved us from the Crimson Plague, the Quantum Wars, the Solar Storm Crisis. This is just another threat you can overcome, was Yoonji corrected. Gently, we were protectors. But that was when we believed we had a place in the galactic community. The council made it clear that we didn't. The Delphine delegate's sphere bubbled with agitation. But the swarm threatens everyone. If the galaxy falls, surely humanity will be next. Yoonji walked to the transparent wall. looking out at the orbital shipyards where vessels of impossible design were under construction. The swarm has been testing our defenses for months. They've learned what we learned long ago, that unity isn't about belonging to a group that merely tolerates you. It's about choosing your own path and having the strength to walk it alone. You're condemning billions of innocent lives? The gaseous Nebulan representative wheezed through his atmospheric suit. No, Yunji said simply. The galaxy made its choice about humanity's place in the cosmic community 10 years ago. We accepted that choice and built accordingly. We wish you well, but we are no longer the species that sought your approval. Council Speaker Velterin-S energy field flared with desperate hope. But surely the swarm is not our responsibility, Yunji finished. You made that very clear when you voted us out. The galaxy belongs to the Council species. Its defense is your burden, not ours. As the delegation was escorted back to their ship, they caught glimpses of humanity's incredible transformation. In the corridors, humans worked alongside AI companions whose holographic forms seemed more real than reality itself. Children played in gardens where gravity flowed like water, running up walls and floating between trees that grew in impossible spirals through the station's transparent walls. They could see the orbital shipyards where humanity's new fleet was taking shape. These weren't the familiar designs of a decade ago. These were vessels that incorporated technologies that bent space-time itself, their hulls adorned with energy fields that created their own miniature stars. The Zentari technician whispered, his crystalline body chiming with awe. Did they advance so far, so quickly? Human engineer overheard and smiled kindly. When you're not constantly solving everyone else's problems, you have time to solve your own. As their shuttle departed Luna Station, the alien delegation could see the truth of humanity's new reality. Massive structures ringed every world in the Sol system. Defensive installations that could probably destroy entire fleets with a single shot. Transport ships moved between planets using what appeared to be controlled wormholes. Children attended schools that floated in the vacuum of space, protected by energy fields. It made the environment as comfortable as a planet's surface. This wasn't the humanity that had once begged for acceptance. This was something entirely new. A civilization that had transcended the need for galactic approval and built something unprecedented in the known universe. The refugee fleet watched helplessly as the void swarm continued its methodical consumption of the galaxy. Behind them, human space remained untouched, protected by defenses that made the swarm's reality-warping weapons seem primitive by comparison. In the end, the galaxy that had rejected humanity faced its darkest hour alone, while humanity prepared. For journeys beyond the reach of both Council and Swarm, they had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from belonging to something greater than yourself, but from having the courage to become something greater than anyone thought possible. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready to claim them. The Iandira Tricklod can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.